Hello everyone, exciting topic today. We are going to talk about effortless camera handling, and talking about that we will talk about animations. Animating cameras, creating walkthrough animations, how you can set up several camera effects such as the depth of field, exposure and global illumination, and how that affects the result in the end. And also in the end I will show you a few things, like kind of technical things with the resolution and other things. I see that you're coming in, so while everyone is reaching the waiting room, let's have a look at what ARCHLine.XP Live can do for you, and then we start off. Beautiful details, and we are going to talk about how to achieve those. So today I have a few models here. One is this one, which is a part of a smaller apartment. This is one corner of it, and I will use this as a starter for today's session, talking about first about the camera effects. In ARCHLine, there are at least two places where you can work with cameras, where you can work with views. And the first is the snapshots, which is one of the output of the software, the standalone images, the still images, and the other one is the animation. I will talk about both. So let's start up with the snapshots and the views. So now I have a few views here, which I'm going to use today. Is this one, and I think I will add a new one, so at the end we can compare the results of what I've achieved and what was the original where we left off from. So what I do now, I just clone this view, and I will use this view for the camera effects that I'm going to add today. The camera effects that you can control for each and every separate views individually is here. This is the camera properties, and when you open it up you will see quite a bunch of effects that you can set up, either that affects the image quality, or something that affects the view of what the camera looks at and how it sees the world through its lens. So in terms of visuals, live actually is trying to kind of mimic how the real world lenses work. through these values that you can see just in a while. The default settings are usually something similar that you can see at the left hand side, and I will show you and I will tell you how some of these affect not just the quality but the performance as well. Okay, so what we see by default is a 90-degree angle of field of view, which you can easily change for your convenience by just simply dragging this value up and down. And if you would like to, for example, open up the field of view quite a bit, you can just dial that up. Take care with this setting, because if it's too wide, the torsion or the kind of this perspective effect will be just too strong, and it's kind of many times it's not too good for the viewer, and also it is something that makes small spaces look larger than they really are. So even though you can do that, just take care with that setting. It's kind of similar to some sort of zoom, but instead of just zooming into one existing part of the image, it literally changes the cone of the field of view, the frustum of that field of view, so you can easily control what you can see on screen, and what you can see on screen, that is what you will see in the snapshot. Also, there is an important setting, which is the exposure. Now, the exposure is something that you can dial down or dial up easily, and it affects how much of the light reaches the lens. So it is kind of similar to that effect that you can find in case of DSLR cameras or many of these automatic cameras that you can use around. So it changes how much of the light is coming through through the objective and reaches the lens, and this way it either makes the image a bit brighter or darker, but it's not equaling to the brightness, which I'm gonna talk about in a while. So if you would like to dial that up, you should do that to make it brighter, so it won't find an auto exposure value or something like that. You need to dial it up if you would like to create an image with larger exposure or lower exposure. Just take care that you don't have too many like burnout spots of the image. So if you already have a lot of white, you just need to take care with that setting. By the way, if you would like to, you can at any time type exact values. So if you know that you like, I don't know, 20 or 30 or 50, then you can just directly type it. You don't have to play with it until you find the proper value. You can just type it in. But other than that, you will easily find it manually by just scrolling up and down this slider here at the left hand side. Exposure is something that you cannot set up for the whole project, because there will be darker spots or brighter spots in your range of views that you have. So something that you set up for this specific view might not as well as work with the other views, because if those have many more artificial lights or direct sunlight or something like that, perhaps you need to dial that down. But other than that, it is very easy to set up and make difference between the two separate views. And talking about that, if you remember, I had this view 13 originally, and now I'm working on view 14, which originates from view 13. So if I turn back to view 13 and I switch back to view 14, we can already tell what the difference is between the two images, and we can easily tell that those settings that we are talking about are camera dependent. So you can just set up one range of settings for one camera, and you can set up the other type of settings for the other camera. I will also show you how you can copy these properties to other cameras, but that comes a little bit later. So I have this value, I'm happy with that, and I'm going to set up brightness and contrast. And if you change the brightness, if you increase brightness, it looks to be similar to exposure, but instead of changing the exposure of the image, it works pretty much similar to how image manipulators manipulate the image. So image manipulators will not change the exposure of the image when you change the brightness. They will change the brightness of the pixels. So you will end up with a brighter version of the image, but at many times, if you change the brightness, it also flattens the image. That you can see here now, we kind of lose the depth of the image when I dial up brightness, especially when it's too bright. As you can see, it's kind of a washed out version. It's not good. But usually it's good to bring in a little bit more brightness than the original one. You could just keep it low, or just play with it until you find the proper value that you wanted. Usually when you change brightness, just as in a case of image manipulation, the same concept is true for the camera properties in live. You need to adjust contrast as well. So you can change contrast, you can remove contrast, but that's the opposite that we want. We actually would like to increase contrast to get back some of the depth of the image, that kind of contact between the surfaces. Yeah, I'm working a little bit long now, so I will save that. Yes, I will just skip that for now. So it helps bring in a little bit more of the depth that we lost by changing the brightness. So keep that in mind. If you change the brightness, if you increase the brightness especially, you need to dial up the contrast also a little bit. The contrast setting is, by the way, asymmetric, as you can see, because low values are having a larger range than the upper values, and it's simply because of the as you can see, if we dial that up too much, then we will end up something that is more cartoon-like than realistic. However, you can try increasing this manually to something that is overdriving the value that you use here, and that is actually true for many of those values. So if you would like to overdrive it, you can try it. It's okay. The software will save it, but now in my special case, I just try to keep it not that high and try to get back some of the depth that I originally had. Okay, so brightness, contrast, exposure, and field of view. This is what we talked about. Now, if you would like to, you can also change the saturation of the image. And by changing the saturation, you can either desaturate the image to kind of wash out the colors and have something more of a sepia effect, or completely washing those out and having a nice black and white or grayscale version of this image. This also, by the way, works for the animations as well, which could be a cool part of your animation. Imagine that you have one with the colors, another one black and white, and so on. So it's a very, very cool effect, I believe. And also you can just go back to 0 as that's the origin, and try to dial up the tones a little bit, because by changing the exposure, brightness, and all of those, we kind of lost a little bit of the color. So we need to adjust that back to where we feel that's natural. And sometimes we also overdrive it a little bit up above natural, because many times clients expect something kind of hyper realistic, a little bit more vivid than the reality. At least that's how I experience that when I communicate with my clients. Okay, so this is about saturation. Also, the same way, just as I created this view 14, I can create another one, view 15, for example, and I can just have view 14 and view 15 in two different versions. So let's just go back to this one and this one. Let's say I would like to create a desaturated version of this one. So now I have a desaturated version of the previous view, and then I have a kind of oversaturated, brighter exposure version of this image, and then I can refine it at any time. Okay, so what do I have here else? The other one is the white balance, and white balance is measured in kelvins, and here, as you can see, the default value is 6,500. That's the base value, and from that, if you move down, you will have cool colors highlighted, and if you dial it up over that value, you will have the warm tones coming out of the picture. And I think this is a very cool and effective way to bring in a little bit of the emotions into the visual, so you can tell the story that this image was taken summertime, because everything is a little bit brighter, a little bit more vivid, and we have beautiful colors and vivid colors and warm colors. But if I dial that down below this value, I can, forgetting that actually there is a very nice and beautiful green grass outside, we can tell that this is perhaps during winter time and so on. So if I change the outside scenery to something more winter-like, then the same exact interior would look like it's in a cooler or winter-like surrounding. So that is what you can do. Let's just dial that back somewhere to the original, make it a little bit brighter, I mean warmer than how it was originally, and let's see what else we have here. There's an interesting setting which is good when you would like to hide, when you would like to drive the attention of the viewer of this image that you are going to take, or especially for the animation, to a focused part of this image, and that is called the depth of field. Now the depth of field by default is focusing onto a close area. So let me just zoom into this part. To the close range, it's actually at 1 meter by default. I can change it to anything else, but by default it is zooming to very close to the camera. So we can say that depth of field by default is kind of a macro photography effect. But I can change it the other way around. So I have a few options here. One option is that if I don't use autofocus, which I will show you in a second, I can set up the focal distance manually, either by changing this value here or by using this little button here, which is for picking the focal point. And this case, this will be the one. So as you can see now, it's bright and clear, and everything else beyond that range. And everything closer to the camera, which is closer than nearly 4,000 millimeters, 4 meters, it is kind of out of focus, and those became blurry, just as we would expect from depth of field. You can just disable and enable to check the effect, whether you like it or not. And if you just would like to, you can just manually tweak this value, either by typing this value or just picking up another focal distance. On the other hand, it's a very handy thing that you can also turn on autofocus, and in case of autofocus, the software will tell you, and it will actually focus on into the kind of the central region of this camera. So now we can easily tell that now all the pillows and all the back wall are in focus, and things that are around this part outside on the wall, they're a bit out of focus, and things that are closer to the camera are also a bit out of focus. So this is how it works. So you just turn the camera to the outside wall, then now it becomes clear, and everything closer to the camera becomes a little bit blurry. If you just turn the camera towards to something that is closer to you, then everything else will become blurry, and the center of the screen will be in focus. Let me just turn the camera a little bit like this, so we can tell this effect works very well by just moving the camera up and down, so we can see how that works. I will show you how you can actually build up a beautiful animation based on this autofocus feature. And also I wanted to highlight that as well. If I zoom into this part, you can see that the outside wall is already quite blurry, and you can actually change how blurry that is. If you just dial this down, you will have a slight effect of the depth of field, not that much, but it's easy enough to tell that it's an effect. And if you would like to further emphasize that, you can just dial it up until 30, and then it's very, very blurry. So now we can easily tell that the most important part for my perspective is now this part here. So this is how it works. Okay, so let's see what the other option, which is called global illumination, does for me. So let me just go back to this corner, and let's see how that works. And for this specific example, I will also show you another interior for a bathroom. Okay, so what is global illumination? Let's just turn it on and off so we can tell the difference, and then I explain what that does. Global illumination, this is a real-time global illumination solution. If you enable that, you can see that the lighting conditions change to more realistic. you can feel, you can see that the things are on the surfaces. Surfaces are touching each other, and colors of the neighboring surfaces have an effect on the bright areas especially. So now if I disable this, just pay close attention to this part. If you disable this option, everything is like kind of the pure color that I've chosen a white color for this wall surface, and that's correct. That's how it should look like. But in reality, if it has something of a brown surface, the brown surface have some sort of a bleeding effect on the surface. If I enable that, we can see that color bleeding coming in, which is very cool. It's a very nice effect, and this is in effect everywhere else. So we can easily tell that this is more realistic than the previous picture was. I will also show you the original in comparison soon. So this is how it looks like. Now, the reason why global illumination is not on by default is because it's very GPU intensive. So now your GPU, that is the graphics processing unit in the graphics card in your computer, now it's working heavily. It is calculating these global illumination, kind of how the diffuse light is bouncing around in this interior, and it's kind of close to somehow how the ray tracers work, but it's a bit faster, and you can tell that it brings in a lot of realism. Let me just show you another part of this interior, which will tell you how easily it is changing the effects. So let's see this curtain here. If I disable global illumination, it has less visible details. The geometry did not change, only how the light transfers through the space. This is what changed when I enable and disable global illumination. If you turn it on, and if your GPU can handle it, then it will be more realistic, and it will bring out more of the details of your of the shading of your interior or exterior, whichever we talk about. That's equal. Okay, so let me show you another example regarding global illumination. I have another file loaded, and that is a bathroom. We used it previously, and here again I can show you a very simple example. If you turn on global illumination, see that also changes the kind of the tones and the colors of the ceiling, of the walls, and so on. If you look at this area, especially the one where we do not have, or we have less direct light, if I disable this, the whole image is a little bit more flat. But if I enable that, I can see a little bit more of the contrast and the shadows, and a little bit more depth, how it looks like. And perhaps usually if you turn on the global illumination, you very likely need to adjust exposure and brightness or something like that. So in case of global illumination, you very likely need to use different exposure and the camera effects than in case you do not have it. So if you do not have a mediocre powerful computer, then you can disable that. You can still use the other effects, but if you have a powerful enough computer, then you should enable global illumination. Okay, so what else we have here? There is another cool effect which is called the lens flare. And lens flare and bloom is kind of connected. Let me show you what I mean. So let me just talk about bloom first. And bloom, if I enable that and I just dial that up, bloom by default is very, very low. But if I dial that up, you can see that here around where there's a light source, an emissive material, if I just brighten that up, I can see that the bloom effect, that beautiful glow around this brightening spot is more in focus. It's more visible, as I can say, and also in connection to that, we can see these little kind of six blade like features. If I turn around the camera, you can see those are moving, and that is the lens flare. Lens flare was not that strong if I had lower bloom value. And also lens flare itself can be made stronger or less of the strong values if I just move this value up and down. So they are kind of interconnected, but they are also in independent settings. If I use a large bloom value, but I don't want the lens flare to be that strong, but I still want to see a little bit of that, I can just dial that down, something like that. So if when I move around, and this is also what I will be able to see during the animations, it will be there, but it will be less strong. But if I would like to change it the other way around, so I would like to make it a little bit stronger, but I don't want to see that much of the bloom, but a little bit of that, then I can just dial that down. In some cases, especially when you have flickering light sources, this could emphasize the flickering effect, and if you don't want that, you can just dial those values down, and you want your final image, especially when we talk about the animation, won't get affected by those two values. Okay, so this is already bringing in a lot of details and a lot of imperfection of the lens. And there is the other two, the vignetting and the chromatic aberration. And if I just dial up the vignetting, you can see around the edges of the image. This is actually the same thing that you can see in photography. If you would like to emphasize vignetting, you can just dial it up or dial it down based on how strong you would like that effect to be. Usually many of the cameras around us have a little bit of the vignetting, so you can leave it on a lower value, but if you would like to make it a strong effect, you can just dial that up. Chromatic aberration is something that happens especially with a few of the DSLR cameras, not only with those, also the digital cameras, the automatic cameras that are built into many of our devices that we have around. And I can show you what that does if I just first make it too strong. So if I dial it up, you can see that especially around edges like this here, you can see it's kind of having an orange-like, a red-like offset here, and the blue-like offset there. This is a stronger version of what happens really with the realistic lenses in the cameras. And if you would like to use something that is realistic, usually you will keep this value in the lower range, somewhere here. So you will have a nice smoothing effect around the edges. It really looks like those edges are not that harsh, not that strict edges. They're kind of like a round of edges. With this little value to be changed, you can add a little bit more realism to your image in the end. So let me just show you how it looks like when it's off, when it's actually 0. This is very sharp, very perfect. But if I dial that back up to something like 20, it already brought in a little bit of that effect. It smoothens the edges, but not that strong that it's too much disturbing or something like that. It just adds a little bit more to the realism of this camera. So this is what I wanted to use. So let me just go back to the previous view. So this is how it looks like. Now I have a little bit of the lens flare. I have a little bit of the bloom. I changed quite a bit of these settings. I also added a little bit of vignetting and chromatic aberration. And if I just turn this back off and switch back to the original view from where we left off, and this is how it looked like. It's a little bit more flat, it's a little bit more gray, it's a little bit different. This was how it looked like originally. And as you can see, with a very few settings, easily in a few seconds, you can create another version of this image. Either if we talk about a grayscale version or an oversaturated version, or one with bloom effects and so on and so on. So what happens if I like what I've created for one view and I would like to apply this setting, actually these settings, all of these settings, to the other cameras that I have? Because that will be my ground truth from this point on, and then from that point I would like to change all the rest of the views. In that case, you should use a button that is at the end of the camera properties dialog here, and this is for kind of copying these settings to the rest of the snapshots that I have. As this message tells me, this will actually update all the snapshots with the current settings, with the current changes. So if I would like to, I just hit yes, and then now wherever I go in this range, let me just go somewhere to the living room. I actually have another view someplace here, which I like to use this one. So now I can tell that I have all the depth of field, the exposure is higher. I can see that the depth of field, just as I expected, it's a very, very strong value, and it's autofocus. So if I zoom onto this area, if I zoom onto that area, it's automatically switching. And I like that. And for example, I would like to create a new view from here. Then this is the ground truth, and as you can see, at the top of this part, the blooming effect is strong enough to tell me that there is a powerful light source over there. If I don't like that, I can change it, I can adjust it, and from that point on, this view will be different than the rest of the views. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you regarding the effects. We talked about all of the camera effects that you can control at the left hand side. And now I would like to show you how to build up animations. I mean walkthrough animations, when you animate the camera, how it passes through the through this model. And then I also would like to show you something that is animating the sun light, how that is around this building. So let me just show you that first. And I told you that I wanted to use this automatic depth of field in my animation. So I will build up an animation that is actually having this movement like this here. So I'm focusing on the books here, and then the camera will elevate slowly, and then it will focus to the rest of this this wall. So this is what I would like to save as a, for example, like a 4 seconds animation. So if I would like to do that, I will first focus on this part, and I go to the animation tray. This is the animation tray, and the animation tray has different settings than the snapshots, so I can again change the field of view, the exposure, brightness, contrast, and everything else. Let me just add a little bit of the exposure, a little bit of the saturation. I would like to dial up the white balance. I would like to add depth of field in autofocus, less strong than the previous one, so I'm fine with this. It's already strong enough. And I would like to add global illumination. That will dial up the details here in the farther parts of this interior, and a little bit of the bloom, a little bit of the vignetting, and a little bit of the chromatic aberration. This is what I would like to make my animation with. So there is this first animation frame that I would like to add, and instead of changing my existing animations, I already have 3 animations. Instead of changing those, I will just create a new animation. And once I do that, I'm already in animation 3, which I can rename if I want with this one. And now the first frame is this one. And if I would like to determine the second frame, I just move the camera up until, for example, this point. And then I just add the new frame. This is how you add the new keyframe. Now you have 2 keyframes. The first is where we start from, the last where we will end up and then I can also add more and more views to this one. And now what I need to do, I need to change the length of this animation. This is quite fast, it's only 1 second long, and I would like to change that either here or here to, let's just change it to 6 seconds. It will be a very slow animation, but it will tell us the story very well. Okay, so like this. Let me just play it. So now the camera moves up slowly, nice and smooth, and now we will end up with this frame here. So this is how you can set it up. It's easy, autofocus is an effect and works brilliantly. And this is also something that I can save as a video file if I want, or I can stitch it into my animation list, which I will show you in a second. Okay, so now I have this animation. That's cool. I'm fine with that. What happens if I would like to add another animation, this time with the, for example, in the bedroom? In that case, I go back to the animation list. Let's just zoom back into this spot to someplace here. And this time I would like to create a different animation from this specific point of view. And so I create 1 keyframe. And this time, the second keyframe will be in this very spot. I will not change the camera position. And the only thing that I change is that the length of this animation. This will be, I don't know, let's just make it 15 seconds. So if I do that, now I have 15 seconds of still imagery. I mean, it's moving. This is what I've record, and then now the camera is not moving. This is still an animation. And what's the use for this? You can actually change the starting and the ending time for the sunlight on this specific very day. So I can just open this up and I can say that, okay, I'm fine with, for example, the beginning of June, and I would like to use sunlight around some place in the morning, like that. And then okay, and if I hit yes, then I already have the same value for the ending date of this animation. But if I click here, I can actually change that to somewhere in the afternoon, like something like that. We can easily tell how that changes here. And okay, so now I go back here, and if I scrub this here, I will have a nice sun path animation. So if I play that during this 15 seconds from the first time, I mean the starting time, till the ending time, the sun will be running. It's like kind of like a time-lapse effect, and it's very cool. You can build this into your animation, and this you can actually combine with camera movement. So if you instead of what I have did here, you actually move the camera, you can combine the two, which you saw at the beginning in the promo video. That's how it was done. The camera was moving and the sun was also animated, having a nice dawn effect or a dusk effect, whichever you prefer. Okay, so this is how you can build up two separate animations. You can combine these effects if you would like to, and then you will end up something like this. I have one animation that is outside the building. It is actually nicely panning through the building all along its length. I also have another animation, which is the second animation that is actually kind of like revolving around this part. Let me just play that. This is how it looks like. Okay, and I also have another one, and instead of just continuously jumping back to the main tray and jumping into the animations, you have a quick jump list here. This is what you can actually also use here to jump from one view to another. So I have another animation that is this one. I actually prepared this in advance for this presentation, so I will use this as well. And also let me just close this back up and see. So I have this one, which is inside the apartment, elevating, kind of moving from here to the upper part of this space. And I have the other one, the last one, which is in the bedroom, and I have this sunlight animated. So I would like to combine these these 5 animations together into one large video file. So if you hit this button here, now the software will actually go through all your animations and will save them into one single video file. So if you would like to do this, you don't even need to use a video processor. You just organize, you shuffle your animations in an order how you would like to do that. Let me show you how that works. So now if I play my animations, all my animations, this is what I will see. Because first I have this animation, is like 15 seconds long if I remember well. It's panning through this building. I mean, you might see a little bit of the lagging during the playback, because I have to stream and do a lot of things. But even if you see a lagging during playback, real-time playback, you won't see that in the recorded video. That will be always smooth with the selected frame rate. I will also show you how you can change that. Okay, so now all the animations are just keep repeating after each other, and when it ends on the timeline, I can easily tell that now I have a 51-second animation. With all my animations here, I can save this into a video file. I'm fine with that. Let me just stop that. But I also would like to spice it up a little bit, and let me just close this back up, and I would like to change some of the settings. Now, what you can change here, you can actually add a fade to black and fade out of black animation. And you can also change the fade in time, the crossfade time between animations, and the fade out time. By default, those are all 1 second, but you can change something if you would like to. If you like a different pace, you can just do that. Also, this is where you can set up the frame rate for the total animation. So if you would like to have a different frame rate, just change that and the software will create the animation accordingly. So if I just change this transition, if I hit OK, let me just see how that works. Let me just move it someplace here where it actually switches between the animations. This is what you can see. Let me just stop that and go back and see. So now from black it is fading in, and then now we will soon see a crossfade to black and to the following animation once it's reaching the end of this building. A nice effect like that, and then from this point to the other one, and so on. So it's pretty easy, very easy. You can already save this and send this to your clients. Talking about the technical details, now we talked about the transitions. One thing that you might come up as a question usually is the resolution. What is the resolution that you will create your animations in? And as you could see, there was no setting like that here, because actually that's a project setting that is something that you can set up here in the main menu. You can go to the options here and you can set up the snapshot and animations resolution. By default, the software will record everything in window size. Now my my application is running on a full HD desktop, 920, and so I'm using a full HD resolution like this on the desktop. So this is what it will record, but you can change the resolution to something else if you prefer a different resolution. This will affect the animations and the snapshots as well. So this is where you can change that. So about the technical details, I think that's all. And there is another thing which I wanted to show you, and that is a new feature coming with this latest release, and this is called the director mode. Let me show you that director mode first with this animation. And this animation is actually the first one. And you can see this little clapboard here, which is for the director mode. If you turn this on, you will see a frame coming in and another kind of video playback here. And if you scrub this timeline, you can see that the video is now playing here instead of the full screen. So what's the deal here? If you zoom out, you can actually see that from this point on, you can see the camera path. This is a very simple animation, by the way. If you can see, that's the 2 frames here and here are at the end and at the beginning of this animation. It's a flat line in the 3D space. And if I would like to, I can just select this camera and I can just move it back down up until I can see the result here. This is the control screen, so I can actually create something that starts with this part of the model. I can just also move it a little bit to the end of this bushes here, this hedges. And so now what I have here, if I play this back, this is what I will see. I can see the camera is transferring through this path here from the beginning till the end, and this is where I can see how it works. If I'm satisfied with that, I can save the result. If I'm not, I can change how this path is going around in the 3D space. I would like to show you a practical use all about this, because this is already a very good thing to see how literally the camera travels through this 3D space. And I would like to show you how this affects editing once you have position sensitive animations like this, for example. Let me just go back. I just select this view here, and let me just turn this back off, so you can see that this is actually a toggle. You can turn it on or off. Now I can see that the cameras that I've selected, the animation 1, all the cameras are all there. If I would like to quick jump there, I can turn this off and select one of the cameras. In that case, the software is jumping back into the original mode. So now if I play this back, I can see the full playback, how it will look like. But if I would like to make sure that I'm actually not traveling through a column or an object or something like that, then I can just turn on this mode again, zoom out a little bit, and check this green path. If it's not going through any of those objects, then I'm fine. If I see that they are somehow traveling through a solid surface or something like that, I can just select them, move them around. I can also rotate them if I want. There is one other thing that you can do with this. You can actually make this path simpler by erasing a keyframe. So if you select the keyframe here or here, you can either erase the keyframe using this little eraser, or you can just select it here and you can just hit delete, so the software will erase this keyframe if you would like to. Also, this will change how the camera travels through this path a little bit, but other than that, everything I have changed is I made it a little bit simpler. So from now on, I can just change the position of this camera, or I can actually add the new frame into this one by clicking here. So now I got this back, and I can, I don't know, lower it or something like that, and then I can just go here to the last frame and I can just do that, do it something like this. So if I like this result, it's already saved. All I need to do to check it in full screen is to disable the director mode, jump back into the first frame and play it back. Well, this is not what I wanted. It's a little bit too much moving. So if I would like to, I can still fix those cameras here and there, or I can just go back and I can erase any of those to make it a little bit simpler. So this is how you can control any of those using the director mode. Easy and simple by seeing how the path travels through the 3D space. This is actually what I wanted to show you on today's session. It was an exciting one. I really like that I could show you all of these features. Should you have any sort of questions now or later at any time when this show is not already here, just leave us a comment and I will answer those questions. Usually there is a question about the resolution, but that I already show you. And there was a question earlier about the file format that the software produces. Now the file format is by default, talking about the videos, it's a regular AVI file. So if you prefer using another format, then you can use any sort of converters, but this format is very, very simple and easy to share, and on any of the social medias or also on YouTube. You can easily upload that, and YouTube will automatically convert it into its own format. And talking about the snapshots, the snapshot format is by default. If you go here, you can see that. Let me just open it up. It appeared on my other screen, so let me just bring it in. So the default format is PNG, which at any time you can change into anything else. The software is using PNG because this is the most compact, lossless format that that the software could use. So you can you can make sure that you will have no JPEG noise or something like that, but still you have the option to convert these into anything else other than PNG. Okay, so again, thank you very much for your attention. I hope you liked the content. If you do, then please give us a thumbs up. And if you have other questions, just leave us a comment or send me an email, and I will be more than happy to answer you. See you soon on the following webinar, which will be about new features of the ARCHLine.XP design software. It was a very nice event to talk to you, and see you next time, guys. Goodbye.